It's a glorious start to the day. Everything here bursting into growth with the recent rain, the heat we've got coming up over the next few days. The plant growth really will be off the charts. The tree ferns, the fatsias, the palms, the gunnera, all reaching up towards that glorious midsummer sun. What a treat. But today you might be wondering why I'm up early. And that's because I've got a question for you about hard landscaping, or maybe several questions. Yes, in today's video, rather than trying to show off anything or provide any kind of value, I've got some questions for you about my ongoing hard landscaping project, particularly here in the middle of the garden. But before that, an even bigger question still. You may recall my problem area, this spot here, where very little other than nettles, as you can apparently see, and my Euphorbia robbii actually thrive. This bamboo here, this certainly isn't doing very well. The Fagecia demissegeri looking decidedly deciduous even in the middle of summer, not great. And then across here, this bamboo, this is actually Phyllostacis atravaginata, well known for growing in damp, boggy soil. This soil isn't damp or boggy, so this bamboo certainly won't thrive here either. So whilst I have recently created, we'll say, a beautiful jungle entrance / exit picture here, that bamboo complements it perfectly, there might be some changes afoot, and I'll go through them in today's quick video. So, looking at the back, we've got a Schefflera there, which will be coming out shortly, getting chopped back a bit and given some TLC in a pot. We've got Persicarias, vigorous plants, invasive even in some parts of the world, where here, just how dry the soil is, it's really throttling them back. They're hardly growing at all. So again, those will be coming out of the ground, potted up and moved around somewhere else in the garden. So essentially, I've got a problem area. In my hydrozoning video, I spoke about my potential plant changes for this area, how I might introduce some plants which are adapted well for dry shade, maybe some large mahonies at the back, potentially even some astelias, something like that. Basically plants which can thrive in these conditions with minimal extra watering. That was the theme of the video. But one of you, you know who you are, Bratoon, you actually suggested that I go the other way and put a pond in this area here, which is definitely a thought which has stuck with me. Now, this area here, obviously, like I said, planting it is going to be a bit of an issue. So as much as my garden is first and foremost all about the plants, I could obviously very easily plant Mediterranean here. I could take basically all this stuff out here other than the Euphorbia. I could plant Euphorbias here. I could have a lot of the flowing grasses that I've got over in the fire pit there, the Channicloa rubra, things like that. Not a problem at all. Those plants would thrive here with minimal extra watering, even with the dense root competition under the soil. But to be honest with you, it doesn't really feel like the right spot for that. It's a little bit of a shady spot. You've got that glorious big cherry tree up there with the ivy growing up it, home to a lot of wildlife. And really, Mediterranean, to me on this side of the garden here, doesn't sit with that sort of semi-shade especially well. So it's time for something radically different. I've had a few ideas mulling over in my head. Do I build some kind of garden shelter here? A structure? Maybe some kind of building? Maybe even a little playhouse for Harriet? Well, we actually went to the garden centre last week and saw some of the playhouses there, the big deluxe things with a veranda or porch outside, a little upstairs bit, and she absolutely loved it. But in all honesty, as much as it would fit here, it's possibly not the right spot for it, because this part of the garden's got all the spiky plants in. I think really somewhere close to the house where most of the time the adults would usually be as well might be a little bit more sensible, or potentially somewhere else that I'll look at in an upcoming video. We will see about that. So that idea, I've kind of semi-ruled that out for now. The next thing could have been, we actually need a log store. But again, it's not close to the house, not especially practical, and possibly not the best use of space, even if I made a mega aesthetic one which stood up here. So my next question is the pond. Is this the right spot for a pond in my garden? Well, historically, I haven't really had any large ponds here because having 2 small dogs and a young daughter now is possibly not the safest thing. So I'll have to do something to protect the top of it just for our own peace of mind. But maybe actually subverting the idea of this being a dry part of my garden and doing something a little bit different with some lush and leafy planting around it might just be the way forwards. I'm thinking some incredible pond plants, maybe some Xanthodecia hercules around the sides of it, plants which can live in the water through the summer, give that lush and leafy look without needing to have very damp organic matter rich soil around them. That's my thinking. Obviously, being me, I'd have to go big. I've seen some pre-formed ponds. I'd have to go pre-formed if I was going to do it because of the tree roots. I wouldn't really want to risk having, you know, just a liner pond. I think I'd have to go pre-formed. You can get some that are about 2 meters across, 1.5 meters wide, something like that. About 1,250 litres, I think they are, somewhere in that region. So a fairly decent sized pond. I wouldn't be keeping any fancy fish in it. There wouldn't be loads of lighting in it. It would mainly be a wildlife pond. But I guess the tricky thing might be to have complementary planting around it, which can thrive in the soil. Let me know your thoughts. Potentially, I'll just give you a little sneak peek here as I walk past the obligatory Big Daddy Bear sportsdirect.com mug. Not sponsoring today's video. So, look at all these cobbles. These are what's left over. So potentially I could make, I don't even want to say the word, but I will, a waterfall, something like that. I've got plenty of stones to decorate around the outside of whatever water feature I went for. So there we are, something for thought. I've got some here which are more cobble shaped. There's some nice little squarish lumps of stone, a bit of everything. So plenty of potential to make something a little bit exciting. Please do let me know your thoughts. That is very much the purpose of today's video. But as we walk back up here, past enough off your north eye, just look at that. The foxgloves, the roses, all absolutely showing off now. We will see what I've laid out down here. The cobble wall actually stops there and there, and I've got some real questions for you. So this is how I provisionally laid it out. I know it's not 100% central between the two sleepers here. I'm not worried about that, especially when you come from that way, you barely even see the sleeper anyway, so that's not a problem. But my question to you is, well, we'll start with the first one. Here, I think having a little circle here could really give me an area of interest in hard landscaping. Potentially a little mosaic, a little circular feature. I've got lots of different options to play with, shall we say. I've got cobbles, I've got quarry tiles, and get some sandstone slabs for not a lot of money. I could potentially have some little stones, little cobbles, and make a kind of mosaic type thing, a beautiful pattern in the ground. What do you think? Obviously at the minute, these cobbles up here, all these ones down each side, are very much just laid in place. I just wanted to have a little trial run to see how the idea of continuing the dwarf wall would sit with me. More thoughts on that very soon. But I can very easily make these sides here a bit more of a proper circle, shall we say. I think this could be a very nice little feature. Obviously my last video, set to upload on a Sunday, when no one from health and safety was working or watching, I built this lovely sleeper arch here. One question that a lot of you had is, will I be putting fixings in the top of it? And the answer to that is a resounding yes. I just didn't have the time last Friday. Now, don't get me wrong, this would sit here. I have absolutely no concern. It would sit here for years and years and years, no problem at all. The sleeper on the top is actually very slightly narrower on that side there. And over this side here, it sits absolutely perfectly. So believe me, that top sleeper is going, to use a adult phrase when strapping anything down the van, absolutely nowhere. But just to keep things 100% safe and solid, I will be sending some fixings through it. Depending on how well it screws, I've either got some big 10-inch timber screws, or I might just drill it and sink some threaded rod and resin it in, just to do a real proper job. Mainly reason for that is, if I decide to put anything on top of it, obviously I'd like it where it was secured. And if anyone happened to play with it, you know how things go with barbecues, don't you, and kids messing around, I wouldn't want anyone to swing from it and knock it off. That certainly wouldn't be ideal. So definitely I'll fix it down, even though it's potentially not really required. But the bulk of today's questions are all about this path here. When I dug this path out prior to the last video, I chose a width which would allow plenty of room for the bamboo that side to fill out nicely, and again the clumpers this side. Here on this side you can see the beautiful Berinda. I believe this one's the KR7613 Keith Rushford collection. I did well to recall that without my morning tea or coffee, didn't I? Here, the blue steely Berinda CS1046 Chris Stapleton Special, looking glaucous and beautiful in this early morning sun. And then at this side here, we've got the Q Beauty. Apparently flowering for some people, but here, for me at least, so far, touch wood, it's doing just fine and sent out plenty of new culms this year. I didn't want to make the path much wider and eat into the bamboo's room to expand, because they are very much the reason for having this gallery, this bamboo tunnel effect. But there is one question. As I walk through here, is this path too narrow? That's my thinking. Now, obviously it's not too narrow to walk through, not a problem at all. I could essentially set these cobbles like this, and there's plenty of room to walk through, potentially plenty of room for a wheelchair as well, I believe, no worries there. But is there enough room for my large black barrow over there? No, that is the answer. To give enough room for that barrow, I would have to have a flat surface which, well, definitely from there all the way to that end. So I won't be able to have both sides of the wall risen up. So that puts me in a bit of a dilemma. I guess the first question is, do I actually need to get that big black barrow through much more? Well, although most of my hard landscaping up this end is finished, if I'm ever bringing anything up for the neighbour, you know, it does help to have a wide path running all the way through the garden. Got to future-proof things. I might also need to bring some more soil over to his side at some point in the near future. But to be honest with you, there's no way I'm getting that big black barrow through this gate here anyway. So potentially that's a bit of a moot point. The barrow, although it's something which its use might be now limited as that bird tries to do its best to drown me out, I guess really what I'm saying is, this path here, do you think it's wide enough for a normal garden path? And that's where things are. You see, the problem with this path of garden, well, not the problem, but we'll say the opportunity it provides, is that it drops down. The whole garden drops down further this way. So that means that this wall has to step up. Now, I've tried playing with the idea of it being a sort of gradual step there. As you can probably see, I've very crudely put these blocks in place. Obviously, when I do actually mortar them in, they will be raised up slightly. They'll be a lot neater. It'll be more of a cohesive line running through the garden. So don't worry about that. This is what all the wall up there looked like right before I got it all mortared in. But the question is, does that look a little bit random, just stepping up there? I don't really like it. Do I have to step the whole thing up right at this end and go 2 blocks all the way on both sides? That's potentially an idea. You see, I need to have the wall 2 blocks high to actually cover this barrier at this end here. Because although I can trim it back, just keep in mind the actual ground level at this side, it needs 2 blocks to cover it. I need to hold the soil back. I don't really want an exposed bank of soil that's going to pour in every time it rains, even with some inventive ground covers. So I need to have 2 blocks high to make the wall up this side. That's a definite. We'll see. I did think about putting something down the back of this barrier to essentially hide it. I thought about getting some sheet steel, some mild steel. I could hopefully ask my fabricator friend to cut some, we'll say 300mm, maybe 400mm tall sections, fold them over at the top, and it would be a relatively inexpensive way of, you know, having something just to cover that barrier, make it look a little bit less amateur. We'll see. The other option is maybe some 2x1 slabs, 300 by 600mm, stud on end all the way through. That way I could get the height without needing a wall each side. I'm definitely a little bit torn. So going back to basics, I think really my 3 main options for this path here. Firstly, number 1, I'll leave it as it is. I have a wall each side that's 2 blocks high, running all the way down each side. I can then keep the soil back nicely. I can trim the top of that barrier back. I can bring the soil level up to it and just finish it off. It'll look fantastic, no problem at all. And then my thinking was to use 3x2 slabs here, maybe sandstone, just cut them down and actually just trim a little bit off the edges so they neatly fit around the curves of the wall. I think that'd be a nice sort of bit of style to it, definitely raise the level up rather than just plonking square or rectangular slabs straight in here. That is option 1. Leave it as it is now. If you think the width of the path is okay, let me know, and that is potentially what I'll go with. It keeps this hard landscaping theme with the cobbles running from jungle into my Mediterranean area, and it'll be a nice practical path, smooth as well for Harriet going over it in a bicycle, scooter, whatever. My next option would actually be to use these cobbles rather than just having them as a wall each side, to essentially run the cobbles and make an actual cobble path, which is, I suppose, what they're ultimately designed and made for. I could have probably 5 or 6 rows of cobbles, creating a beautiful ornate stone path running through here. It would take a lot of work, and I know I'd have to obviously plan for the deepest one and work my way backwards to give enough room for them, because some of them literally are the size of loaves of bread. But like you've seen, I have got some more. I'm pretty sure I've got enough to do it. Could I do it properly? Like with everything, with a bit of time, putting the effort in, I'm sure I absolutely could. So that's definitely option 2. Maybe a little bit less practical, but I'm sure by filling the joints in just right, I could get it so it's relatively level, not unsafe certainly. That is option 2. Or option 3, and this is one that I potentially don't want to do, but equally I'm not afraid of putting in the effort to make sure something's right. I could extend this right-hand side back another foot or so. I mean, I'm not worried about that little bit of barrier there. That was just a precautionary measure because I had some left over. Essentially, I could dig out another strip of soil. I could soon get some more crusher, put some in there. I know it's another bag, but I'll probably need some for fill in the middle anyway. That won't be the end of the world. And then I could just kick this stone wall back another foot or so, which means I could basically go as high as I want with the stone wall either side, stick to my slabs or whatever in the middle, and then also have room for the black barrier to come through. So the garden is essentially future-proofed. But do you know what? As much as I like using the black barrow, it's definitely twice as easy as using a normal conventional wheelbarrow with one wheel at the front. I'm not really going to be moving that much soil. Even if I have to move 40 tons, it's still going to make 2 days work into 4. It's not the end of the world. This is my garden that I want to enjoy 364 days a year when I'm not barrowing. So that's not really my main concern. My main concern is that this part of the garden wants to be narrow. I think it looks best narrow. After going through the larger jungle clearing, whilst the gunner has behaved itself anyway, I like the idea of quite a restricted passageway through this bamboo. It just reaches over you. It really adds that sense of immersion, feeling like you're part of the jungle garden. And I think it really, without going too Chelsea, it really highlights the drama, the contrast as you walk out then into this wider area here with more sun, blue sky, sparser planting. So to summarise for this area here, option 1, stick to things as they are. Get these walls put down in a similar fashion to this, possibly extending the 2 block height right to the end, just so I can nicely butt up to the stone on each side. And then patio slabs down the middle, some nice 3x2s, but with a little artistic edge to them, literally cutting each one to fit around those cobbles there. A lot of effort, but certainly worthwhile for the overall fit and finish. Option 2 would be to take the cobbles down, put them in the middle, and basically make a full-on cobble path leading through this section of the garden. Like I said, this archway breaks things up nicely anyway, so it will certainly be, you know, a little feature to the garden. And I love the idea of having the cobbles with glorious red and orange leaves on them in autumn. Absolutely love that. Don't know why, it's just one of the things that absolutely sticks in my head. Every time autumn comes around, the idea of seeing red maple leaves on glorious old stone absolutely ticks the box. That is very much option 2, but that also relies on me thinking of some kind of backing here, some way of propping up this barrier, covering it. I'm not going for an overall Chelsea fit and finish, but equally, I do want to have a garden which doesn't have shiny plastic sticking out everywhere. And then option 3 is very much a little bit more dramatic, but dig out more of this section here, push the wall back, which wouldn't be a problem in the scheme of things. And that way I've got room for the tall walls either side, I've got room for whatever hard landscaping surface in the middle, and I can also get the barrier down and the area is nicely future-proofed. So this is definitely something I'm thinking about, an evolving idea, as a lot of mine are. Like I said in the last video, 50% planning, 50% just completely winging it and seeing where it takes you. So on this occasion, it's actually setting these out over the last couple of evenings that's really brought this home. Do I need this path to be wider or not? That is very much a decision. Let me know your thoughts. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, however I do it, this part of the garden will be such a beautiful contrast to the lush jungle behind. I like the idea of just stepping down, sinking into it, having this bamboo reaching up. You can already see the Fargesia Rusta Campbell. It's grown so much this spring. With another couple of feet of height on those Phyllostaches there, this part of the garden really will feel so different. The bamboo each side getting to about there. You push your way through, I won't say push your way through, you walk through quite a dense path here, and then it opens up. Would this look amazing with either some beautiful shade and drought tolerant planting over there? Would it look amazing with some full-on Mediterranean planting? Or would it also look amazing with that pond in there? A load of glorious planting around it and the sound of water dripping, falling, cascading with a stone backing behind it. Let me know your thoughts. And as the boys sniff around, come out to say hello, and also wonder what I'm doing out here so early, there is a fourth option. This is if I didn't have to cater for dogs, children, and any kind of practical element. If I lived in some very modern style house and garden in the middle of London, what I would do is essentially run 2 rails of mortar down here, set some 600 by 600 slabs on them, so they almost appear to be floating a couple of inches away from the crusher floor. And then I would pour a load of black gravel, really fine gravel, down the sides of it. So essentially the whole path looks like it's raised up with a wall coming up either side. And under each edge of the slabs, the overhanging bit, I would put in some LED strip lighting, some warm lighting that would really look amazing. Can you just imagine that? Flicking the lighting on, seeing those cobbles uplit with a beautiful, glorious, warm glow. I think it would look truly incredible. Definitely next level design. But fortunately, when you've got a young child, when you've got little dogs, and also when you've got lots of bamboos dumping the leaves every year, having two very slim trenches down either side of the path certainly wouldn't be practical. But it's nice to dream, isn't it? And I guess to end the video on one final note, there is another question, an exciting one, which might certainly keep me up many nights. This archway here, it doesn't look finished yet, does it? Surely it needs a live, laugh, love sign in the middle. The only question is, do I do it stylish, classy in calligraphy, or do I go for pink neon? That very much is a decision. So, I hope you've enjoyed having a quick look at this area here. I just want to bring it home that I don't exactly know what I'm doing yet. There's plenty of room to change the plan so far. I'm very much experimenting. I haven't done a lot of these things before, but I'm going with the flow, learning along the way. I know a lot of you are much more experienced than me, and I'd love to know your thoughts, your input. What do I do here? I won't be rushing into doing whatever I'm doing. It's probably gonna be next month before I actually get onto it. So it'd be nice to attack it with a real sense of vision and get that creative motivation to really produce something special. So thanks a lot for watching. Let me know your thoughts below. It really is appreciated, and I'll see you all very soon. See you later. See you, mate. Bye.